Welcome everybody to episode 9 of the J&J Show. I'm Joe Simon. I'm here with Josh Yaskoski.
I am.
Welcome. Today we want to talk about the New Year's approaching and Josh handling a lot of the administrative items at the office. What are the things we need to think about come January, Josh?
Yeah, so some philosophical, some administrative, some tactical, some strategic. So of course, turn of the year means we're going to be starting a new round of scheduling for people that need an idea of how frequently they're going to be meeting next year. I know as many of the discussions you've had in the past, we're going to be doing a lot of, half meetings might be digital, half the meetings may be in person. One big thing I'd say, and I know you've spoken to a decent number of people about this, is don't feel obligated to have a meeting if there isn't anything specifically you want to talk about.
No, and I tell everybody that all the time. It's like, listen, it's our obligation to reach out to you a certain number of times a year to offer a meeting. But if you're good or you don't have anything you really want to talk about, you can always defer the next meeting.
Yeah, if you were previously doing 4 and you say, you know what, 4 is an awful lot for me, we've come to realize, and it's something we want to talk about now, is we're reaching out to people for those meetings. Doesn't mean you need to have them. Often, more times than not, 2 years ample.
Yeah.
The reason I say that, as I'm sure you know, is we have note calls in between.
Yep.
We have the podcasts that come out. We have newsletters that come out. If something is going on in your world, please tell us. This is not to discourage anyone from calling.
And I imagine most of our clients are probably hearing from us 10 to 15 times a year for one subject or another. Um, you know, I think the big thing kind of as I think about it is this is all about you all, right? We've always talked about this. So, if something comes up, if you defer your meeting and something comes up a month later, it doesn't mean you got to wait till your next meeting, right? You can always reach out to us. We'll get you on the calendar, take care of whatever it is that you need to take care of. So don't feel like deferring your meeting means that you got to wait, 3 or 6 or 9 months to see us again. If something comes up, yeah, we're going to meet with you.
Certainly. And it's one of the big things we start at the beginning of the year is refreshing, okay, who had X number of meetings last year and starting to reach out to do scheduling there. So administrative, but that administrative turns into what the meetings look like. And that's the same thing of, if you're doing a new planning meeting, maybe revising your financial plan is one of those meetings for the year. We want to make sure that everyone gets the right amount of attention, but we don't want to be overbearing.
We don't want to overwhelm you. And again, I think, we've gotten to a point now where it's been about a little bit over 2 years since we started working with everybody in the DC area. And of course, we wanted to meet with you as frequently as possible because we needed to build that foundational relationship, right? But I think with most of the clients, we're there at the point where, we don't need to do meetings just to do meetings. Let's make sure that we're, obviously we don't want to waste your time as well, right? We want to bring you in if we have something important to say or important to go through, and it's going to be something that's meaningful for you.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, can we just have a quick phone call to run through something? Yep. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, I have always gone into Rockville or always gone into Arlington, but, can we just Zoom this time around?
And I will tell you, Josh, I'm finding that, right?
Yep.
So I've talked to a lot of clients that, that were actually even reluctant to do a Zoom originally. And then we've done a Zoom and they're like, whoa, this is fabulous. I don't have to leave my house and I can get the same information, the same contact. And the best part about it, we have the reports right there on the screen in front of you, right?
Absolutely.
So it's almost easier for us to go through the meeting through a Zoom. We don't want to discourage personal meetings. And again, I think with most of our clients, we've talked about this. We still want to meet with you face to face at least once a year.
Absolutely.
But, we are finding a lot of clients that were even resistant to Zoom for those other 2 or 3 meetings, depending on what your cadence is, are saying, hey, you know what, let's just do one face-to-face meeting a year, Joe, and let's do the rest through Zoom.
Absolutely. And that ties into, other things that may take place at the beginning of the year. We did a couple discussion points in a newsletter about including your beneficiaries or who's going to be your trusted contact, etc. Beginning of the year is a good time to look at who are my beneficiaries? Are they correct? Realistically, there's never a bad time to look at your beneficiaries, but psychologically, the turn of the year is often a time to do that. Making sure, you have trusted contact on there if it's needed, but also too, and this is a comfortability thing, but it's the turn of the year, you check who that is. Maybe you want them included in the meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe you want your children included. As everyone probably knows at this point, most of our growth is internal. It's through referrals, it's through people's friends, it's through family. That's how we grow our business. That is our goal. So never shy away from mentioning a name.
And I get that a lot too. Doing most of the meetings, I'll have clients like, hey, are you willing to work with our son or daughter, right? They don't have a whole lot of money, and the answer to that is, of course we are, right?
Yep.
Because we're creating, our practice is multi-generational,
Yeah.
and the only way we grow is by continuing to bring in younger clients as well. They're going to grow with us, right? And also, if we're working with you as a parent, yeah, we want to know the children, we want to know the next generation. I think so many advisors don't take advantage of that. And then when something happens to the parents, well, the next generation isn't familiar. It creates a situation where, things are a little bit more, I wouldn't say awkward, but it's a little bit more difficult to do that. And especially older
It's not
value.
cold versus warm.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and we don't want that, whether the assets stay with us or not, we do want a warm transition.
Yeah, and be able to help with that and understand the assets. And this is something we see a lot is even with people coming in, whether existing clients or new clients, you get mom and dad's assets.
Yep.
Well, mom and dad's assets might be run for mom and dad's
Yes.
age, and you're 20 or 30 years younger. So if you inherit these assets, one of the big things is making sure it's built for you now. So that's something we see a lot of.
Well, and speaking of that, right? That's actually come up a few times this year. Obviously, it's terrible, but in the business that we do and the number of clients we have, we deal with probably 4 or 5 death claims a year, and not only from parent to child, but from going from being a couple to a single investor, your plan is going to change as well,
Absolutely.
right? Because that's going to require a review of the assets because your situations change and your goals and objectives are going to change to some extent. So, in that scenario, we're always going to reevaluate the strategy and go back to the plan.
Yeah, long story short, we'd love to talk to family as an extension of yourself. That's the greatest compliment anyone can give us is mentioning our name. And also somewhat it's situational looking into the new year with everything that's happened. As we all know, federal employees are our bread and butter at this practice. That's who we work with. It's who we like working with, but that's not it.
Yep.
But it's a case of there's a lot that's taken place in the federal government this past year. As we know, there are a lot of people that are rolling off payroll in December and January, where they may say that I'm into the next step of my life. We've had a lot of people reach out to us and say, hey, will you talk to so-and-so? Or I have a buddy, this, that, or the other. Based on just the strategic of it's the turn of the year, but also the tactical of everything that's going on with federal employees at the end of this year, going into next year, we'd love to speak to anyone who has questions about what that looks like.
Absolutely. Because again, things have shifted in the couple of years that we've taken over, right? We're a young, growing company, regardless of our size, and we are taking on new clients. So, and how do we get most of our clients? Referrals through good clients themselves. Right.
And it's a case of, that there's no cost to that. If you have somebody who's just curious, we're happy to go through that plan with them because we know that there are very few, if any, circumstances where, and I'm going to use the word everyone knows I love to use, be able to come up with a more efficient plan.
Yeah.
And do you need your assets? How do we most efficiently do that? If we don't need our assets, is it QCDs, which TSP has finally gotten around to talking about Roth conversions, for example, for next year. But again, the biggest thing, and we talk about this with anyone who is referred to us or anyone who mentions a friend, is a lot of people design their TSP around I have X number of dollars for rainy day, I have X number of dollars for growth, but how does TSP do it? Pro rata. So therefore that, just from a tactical standpoint, if you want to have a more dynamic plan that isn't set and forget, that topic alone is well worth speaking to an advisor. It's a long-winded way to say we grow through referrals. That's what we do. Hopefully these podcasts are additive both for current and prospective clients to understand what we do a little bit. But being the turn of the year, we're accepting clients. We want to have referrals. By the end of the year, sometimes that slows down. We never want to have more clients than we're able to handle. So that's something we evaluate internally.
But, if you've got a friend or a family member that wants to talk to us, no obligation. We're going to, we'll set up a meeting, go through their scenario, make sure we're, as we talked about in the past, a good fit, right? Because you have to be a good fit. And sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't, but we're happy to have the conversation, no obligation.
No, completely agreed. Something very tactical is what happens at the beginning of the year. RMDs are recalculated. So come the 5th or 6th of January, we'll know what your RMD is for the year. Couple critical things to remember. This is all of your pre-tax accounts that does this calculation, unless of course you're still working, have a company plan, etc. But say you have a couple IRAs, your RMD is an aggregate across those. If you want to do donations through QCDs, the beginning of the year is, in a perfect world, the best time to do it.
Absolutely, because the thing we always caution, if we wait until November or December to do a QCD, and it's gonna, you're depending on that to satisfy part of your RMD, If the organization does not cash the check before the end of the year, well, it's not going to count.
Yep,
And I think people aren't aware of it or lose sight of that. So if you are going to do QCDs, we prefer to do them in the first half of the year.
certainly. And if you have an RMD and you need income at the beginning of the year, if we know historically you take your RMD as cash, it's probably where we're going to start. So if you have a $30,000 RMD and you take $50,000 a year,
Yep.
we're probably going to take that $30,000 first, and then we may migrate to a non-retirement account or what have you. If based on where the market is at the beginning of the year, remember, you can take your RMD at any point through the calendar year. If you want to take it via securities
Yep.
and you want to do it right now, we can do that too.
Yep.
Just because we typically have the discussion at the end of the year doesn't mean it has to be the end of the year.
And I think you've talked, actually, I want you to speak a little bit about this, what we want to do for RMDs with beneficiary IRAs of the next year.
Yes. So beneficiary IRAs rules are not straightforward.
Mhm.
So of course we have 2020 and after deaths. We have before 2020 deaths. Before 2020, you have an RMD required based on your life expectancy table. What do we want for those? We want to set those up on automatics. We want those to come out, whether it's once a year, monthly, whatever it happens to be. We want to set those up because they should be, even if you're 45 years old, those should be, and of course there are exceptions, but we want those to be set up to take place automatically, ensure we never miss
I
it.
think, and tell me if I'm wrong, that sometimes when we tell clients that we want them to be done automatically, they think it has to be done monthly.
Yeah, they could be once. You could say January 15th, you could say December 15th, you could say quarterly with anything in between. We do prefer those to be automatic because statistically, beneficiary RMDs are the ones that are most frequently missed because you have a line in the sand in 2020, depending on was the individual taking RMDs, supposed to be taking RMDs, not taking RMDs. And also the thing to look at when it comes to RMDs in January is if you are on the 10-year rule,
Yep.
where are you in terms of taking money out?
That's right. I think it's easier for people to forget that they got to get it all out in 10 years.
Yep.
Well, I'm just going to skip this year, and then they do it another year and another year. Now all of a sudden you're 4 years away from
Yeah.
having to get the money out of the account, and you've got a massive balance, which is, going to make it much harder to handle or to, handle from a tax perspective.
Certainly. So something to think about at the beginning
Yep.
of the year is what do I think this year is going to look
Yep.
like? Let's say you're unemployed currently and you have a beneficiary IRA, maybe take that as your income for a period of
Yep.
time. Again, with the various exceptions, the beneficiary IRAs, if you have one somewhere, let us know so that we can talk about what that should look like, maybe better aggregated.
Yeah. And we've talked about this too with certain clients. Listen, if you've got a beneficiary IRA and you've got your own traditional IRA and you're taking income, well, I would prefer you to take it from the Benny IRA because, again, there are more things we can do with traditional IRA down the road, such as Roth conversions that we can't do with the Benny IRA.
Absolutely. So the best time to think about those while RMDs are addressed at the end of the year because we're running out of time. If you can think about it early in the year of what your income may look like, or if it's your first year retired, maybe you take a large amount of money past the RMD and you fund your first few years of retirement with a beneficiary IRA. So a big topic that comes up there. And again, the deadlines are the end of the year. That is true. But we only know what we know right now. And if it's a convenient time to take it now. Of course, if it's your first year with an RMD, you're turning 73 in 2026, even if it is December 25th, December 27th, whatever it happens to be, you still need to take an RMD that year. In the first year, yes, you can punt it, but then you have to take 2 in the following year. So if you turn 73 in 2026, you'll have an RMD to take.
I'll tell you, Josh, I haven't had one client want to take 2 in the following year.
No. We've had one, and it was only based around retirement.
Yep.
She was retiring the year she turned 73. Year 74, she wouldn't have any income. So
speaking of taxes, the big thing that always happens come January is we start getting calls about when our 1099s are going to be arriving. So what can you tell the clients around that?
So it's always a moving target, depending on the firm you're at. But I will say, because people raise this to me on the phone all the time, we used to get them in January. The timeline for getting 1099s has been pushed back, I'd say probably every year for the past 5 years. And my expectation is for 1099Rs, traditional 1099s, individual 1099s, not the consolidated, but 1099s, you're probably going to receive them in February. Yes, they may be printed and mailed in January, but when you're going to receive them, probably February. But we will have some, depending on particularly non-retirement accounts, you may not get that 1099 till the beginning of April. And if you have K1s from a partnership, well, you might get them on tax day. You may be in a better position to file an extension because tax forms, again, past 5-10 years, it's not January. February is probably the earliest. March is more reasonable. And if it's a non-retirement account or anything that may need to be corrected, which we don't often know until after it already happens, that's going to be April. So I know people like to file their taxes early. Fully respect that. When you have some investment assets, you're going to be getting those forms a little bit later. The other thing to bear in mind on that is if you're making contributions to a retirement plan, well, I guess I shouldn't say retirement assets, such as an IRA, you do have till April 15th to do that. So again, dependent on what your income look like, do you want to make a quick IRA contribution so long as you have earned income? Do you want to toss in a Roth contribution? You do have till April to do that.
Good to know. Other exciting news is we are actually going to be moving into our new DC headquarters in Tyson's Corner.
Correct.
In February. So if all things go right, we'll be filming from our new podcast studio at that point.
Yes. So much to your point, the Arlington, the Roslyn office will cease to exist other than if for some reason we need to rent space there for a meeting. But knowing Tyson's isn't as far, we don't expect to need to do that too frequently. But yes, it's going to potentially be around 2 blocks up from Tyson's 2. So the mall there. I believe the building falls between Greensboro and International Drive. Its own parking lot, so they'll be parking there. We'll basically have a wing to ourselves. So we're very much looking forward to that. That will also come down to where people get to meet. So again, if you were in Arlington, Tyson's would probably be our first choice. I think you also have thought on some other offices.
Yeah, so we're going to be because the Rockville office that we use is attached to the Arlington office in some sense. We're going to be moving, as far as those meetings, you'll have a choice to come to our new Tyson's office, or if you don't want to make that trip, we're going to have a location in Bethesda that we're going to offer, which should be within, 5 or 10 minutes of the current Rockville location. So want to let you all know that. And we're going to be like legit podcasters with our little studio, and I think we're going to have a logo, and we're going to be official at that point. I'm excited about it.
And that should allow us to do it with greater frequency. Some of the other things at a firm level, we've talked locally, so as many people know, we're 2 out of, we'll say, many advisors. Our headquarters office is out of Pittsburgh. We're going through the process of bringing in a chief investment officer.
Very exciting.
Reason I mention that is not only will we then ourselves be aggregating information from all of our various partners, because we don't make decisions in the ether, we're also going to bring in the expertise of the CIO to further bounce those ideas around, have a little more uniformity among the firm as a whole.
And with that, I know you guys love the banter back and forth with Josh and I, but I think we are going to still have that, but I think we're going to have a lot of guests next year to cover different topics, because what I do want to do is get a lot of subject matter experts in to come in and talk about the things that are important to you. So expect that for next year as well.
So subject matter experts, to your point, anything Social Security, Medicare, what have you, anything. Basically, if it involves planning, not just asset management, we're going to look to do that. I may have some internal guests to do that as well. So those will be coming out of that office. And I think the right thing to say, as it's akin to that, is we'll then probably be doing a lot more in terms of market commentary and market expectations, not just from ourselves, external partners, CIO. We're going to change up the format of the written newsletters to include more information as far as maybe quarterly market updates in addition to the podcast. Also, an introduction of some of the other people that are in the firm.
Absolutely.
Because particularly as of late, we've been implementing using more of the home office operational team. Some people have gotten emails or DocuSigns from people at home office to have a little more idea of who those people are and the resources we have at the firm, not just from planning and insurance and tax and legal, but also the internal resources that we're realists here. And we deal in an industry where people can unexpectedly be unavailable, whether that's for good or bad reasons. And we want to make sure you guys as the clients know who some of the other people are and the resources and the backup. It's not just Joe and I. We say that, but you'll get the opportunity to see who some of those people are. Meet some of the other advisors we have that have subject matter expertise in various areas. So we think it's rather exciting, and it goes back to the number of touch points to bring everything full
Yeah,
circle.
so I'm thinking next year it's gonna be the J&J Show elevated, right?
I
We're gonna
think
take
so.
it to another level.
Yeah, I'm not gonna change my hair,
No.
but I think it'll be elevated, and just meet more resources, more information. As many people know, Joe and I are the primary relationship
Yeah.
that clients have, but we're not the only ones, and that's critical. I never want to be viewed as the only option, because that's not from a business standpoint or from a client standpoint, not the way we want to be positioned.
Well,
This is a
if
continuum.
you change your hair, I'm not doing the show. I'm gonna put that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's written into my contract for the podcast, and yep,
I'm going 10 years strong with the same haircut.
I love it.
Probably, I mean, it might say a lot about me. Maybe I'm scared,
Here
is
we go.
what it
There we
is.
go.
But please expect an exciting group of communications from more than just ourselves next year. You'll still hear from us a lot, but you'll get to hear from more than just us and other opinions and other
And
experiences.
with that, I'm excited with what 2026 will bring to you all as well as us at YTS, and I'm excited to watch our relationship grow.
Absolutely.
And and I'm hoping for a great market year. So
Yep.
that I can't guarantee, but
We're prepared either way.
we're prepared either way, and we always talk about that. So with that, I think we're gonna wrap this episode up. I appreciate all that you do for us, and we love working with you, and yeah, we're excited for the new year.
Absolutely. We appreciate the magnitude of what we do. And we know we're not the only people out there. We appreciate the relationships. We appreciate when you mention us to somebody. Please continue mentioning us to somebody. It's, of course, how we grow. But outside of that, I'd say that I'm Josh Jaskowski.
I'm Joe Simon. Like,
Comment.
subscribe.